All right, so take a look at pretest and question 1A. It asks us, suppose that two lines have the same slope, but they have a different y-intercept. So let's establish that first. So first of all, would we agree that these two lines both have the same slope right now? Yeah, they do. Now we need to establish that they have a different y-intercept. So Mackenzie, what's the y-intercept of the blue line currently? The y-intercept. Bless you. Do it. Good. Nick, what is the current y-intercept of the red graph, or the red line? Yes, are they different? Yeah, we're good. Yeah, one's positive 3, one's negative 3. So then the question asks, is it possible for them also to have the same x-intercept? So, what is the current x-intercept, Athavia, of the blue line? -2. Good. Kaylee, what's the current x-intercept of the red line? Yeah, it's real close, but +2. So it's asking me, can the first two scenarios happen and also have the same x-intercept? So what's our answer? No. And you can see the x-intercepts are always going to be different, right? Unless if this happens. But are they parallel now? No, now they're on top of each other. The first and foremost important part of the definition of parallel is they cannot touch each other, right? Ever. Two parallel lines cannot intersect. And they are currently intersecting at all points. That's like literally the worst case scenario. So these are no longer parallel. So our answer for 1A would just be no. It's not possible for them to have the same x-intercept because then they are no longer parallel. The answer to 1C. It says two lines are parallel if and only if, and I want you to write down this right here. They have the same slope, but they must also have a different y-intercept. Because what happens if they have the same y-intercept? Kind of the same thing as the x-intercept. What's going to happen? If two lines have the exact same y-intercept and they also have the same slope. It's the same line. They're not parallel anymore. So both of those things have to occur in order for two lines to be parallel. Copy down these two. So it's asking us, are the lines parallel? So we have y equals -2/3 x plus 3. And then we have another line. It's 2x plus 3y equals 8. So what do we call this form? I just said it a second ago. Yeah, this is called slope-intercept form. And what does the coefficient of x tell us? Also known as the letter m. M is the slope. And the last number we refer to as b. What is b? The y-intercept. Hence the name slope-intercept form. It tells us the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? Now we have this other form. What is this one called? Yeah, this one's standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. Pretty much everything's on the left side except for the constant. And standard form, for the most part, is totally useless. It doesn't tell us anything about the line at all. Now, standard form is good when you're doing like systems of equations and you have to eliminate. But for the most part, especially when we're talking about graphing, we do not want standard form. We want everything to be in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to keep the first equation as it is, but we need to solve this one right here for y and turn it into y equals mx plus b. So first things first, undo your adding and subtracting. So I'm going to subtract 2 x's over to the right, which leaves me as 3y equals -2x plus 8. We usually write the x before the 8, y equals mx plus b. And then Ethan, what's the only thing left from keeping y being by itself? Multiplied by 3, so we need to divide all 3 terms by 3. So that cancels. Now we are in y, or slope-intercept form. And just keep 8/3 as a fraction. So two things must occur for two lines to be parallel. What was the first thing that has to happen? Same slope. So do these two lines have the same slope? Yes? The second thing that must happen is their y-intercepts must be different. Is 3 different from 8/3? Yes. So these lines are parallel. So this is the answer to 1B on your pretest. Perpendicular lines, or lines are perpendicular if and only if their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So let's say I have the slope of 2/3. What does the word opposite mean in math? It's talking about the sign, right? So if that one is positive, opposite means negative. And then what does it mean to take the reciprocal of a fraction? Flip it upside down. So the reciprocal of 2/3 would be -3/2. Those would be opposite reciprocal slopes. So hopefully on the little Desmos you saw that is how you create a perpendicular line. Now, the second line here says, if you take the product, what does product mean? Multiply. If you take the product of these two numbers, you should get -1. So let's try it. What is 2 times -3? -6 over 3 times 2. That simplifies to -1. So that just tells you that the product of opposite reciprocals should always be -1. Kind of 3 scenarios. So I just write this down with me. First of all, we need our answer to look like this. Y equals mx plus b. We need to go through the point 4, 10. So I'll say THRU through 410. Take a drive through. And it needs to be parallel. So if you remember shorthand from geometry, those railroad tracks, parallel to y equals 3x plus 8. Those are our 3 scenarios that we have here. So for these types of problems, I would always start out writing y equals mx plus b. Now I'm going to kind of start backwards. I'm going to start with this scenario first. If our line, our new and improved line, needs to be parallel, what do I need to steal from this equation? The 3. So I'm going to replace m with 3. Now, the slopes have to be the same, so we got the 3. But what about the y-intercept? It has to be different, but in this case, we also have to go through this point. So we need to make sure our line does that. So the way we're going to do that, remember, every point is an x value and a y value. So if we want to go through that point, we can plug in those values into our equation. So we'll plug in 4 for x, and we'll plug in 10 for y, and then we're just going to keep b as b. We don't know what the y-intercept is, but we need to force it to go through the point 410. So now we just need to solve for b like in other ones. So 3 times 4 is 12. Subtract 12 over. That means b is -2. Now we did all that work. That's my answer, right? b equals -2. Yeah. Remember, the very first thing it says is write your answer as y equals mx plus b. So we need to rewrite the whole equation. So our final answer would be y equals same slope, 3x, and then the y-intercept that we found it needs to go through is -2. So your final answer would be 3x minus 2. So I'm going to kind of set it up for you, and I'm going to let you kind of give this one a go on your own. So first of all, it does need to be y equals mx plus b again. It needs to go through to 3, but there's one difference about this problem, and it's the word perpendicular. The perpendicular sign is that, you need to remember that upside down T. So perpendicular to y equals 3/4 x plus 3/2. So think of what you might do differently. It's very similar, but there's one difference between this problem and the problem we just did. Everything else is the same. So see if you can kind of get to the end there. So we should have plugged in 3 for y, -4/3 for m. How did I get that? It's the opposite reciprocal of 3/4. X needs to be 2, and then plus b, we don't know. So if you're not good with fractions, just use your calculator. You can. I don't care really at this point in time if you still don't know fractions. You're probably not going to know them. So -4/3 times 2. The way we multiply fractions is across the top, so it's going to be -8/3. But in your calculator, how do you turn a decimal back to a fraction? Math 1 enter. So that is -8/3. Now we need to add 8/3 to the left side. So once again, now to add fractions, you need a common denominator. So 3 is technically 3/1. So we'd need to multiply the top and the bottom of that by 3. So really, we're adding 8/3 plus 9/3, which is going to give us 17/3, right? Common denominator stays common. But once again, if you didn't know that, just do 3 plus 8/3, and then do math, fraction, enter. Gives you 17/3. That is what b equals. So our final answer, y equals opposite reciprocal slope times x plus 17/3. How many of you got it?